welcome back, welcome back. Thank you guys for stopping by my channel yet again. Before we get started, I would like to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. Today we're going to be talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, but before we get started, so today's video, I'm going to be talking about something that I've lived with my entire life, and that is something called ocular cutaneous albinism. And what this is it is a condition where an individual lacks pigmentation in their eyes, hair, or skin. This condition affects all ethnicities, people of all backgrounds, all walks of life, but it is a rare condition. About 1 in 17,000 to 20,000 people in America have this condition. Those numbers tend to be a little bit more higher for people in other countries like Africa. And there are different variations of albinism, so there isn't just one type. I have the variation that is typically popular with African Americans and people in the African diaspora. And today I'm just going to kind of let you into kind of an introductory course of what it's like to have ocular cutaneous albinism, as well as some aspects of being black and having albinism. So in 1997, on December 13th, I was born into this world with a condition called albinism. So as you can imagine, being African American but not looking African American posed several different challenges. I grew up not seeing another person with albinism until a very later part of my life, I would say around high school. And I think for me that's difficult. You know, anytime you have a condition or a life circumstance, it just helps to be able to have someone to relate to that's either been there or who's there with you. So elementary school, I was bullied a lot, misunderstood. Kids either thought I was mixed, white, or adopted because I didn't look like my family. And at the time, I didn't know what I had. All I know was that I was different, but at home and by my grandmother and by my aunt, I wasn't noticing that I was different because of the way that I was embraced. And so in middle school, you know, I was bullied yet again, and I ran into a lot of instances where I had black friends who were either jealous of me or used me as a way to get some kind of status. But I dealt with that, and I had white friends who didn't know I was black, and when they found out, they felt bad. So it was a whole lot of mixed emotions and frustration because people were just so ignorant. I've had adults follow me around grocery stores. I've had people ask me if I had the thing that Michael Jackson had, which the answer is no. That is a different condition called vitiligo. Shout out to my vitiligo brothers and sisters. But it was just very frustrating, especially being a child trying to formulate your self-concept in those years and having no basis for what you're going through. So I did get saved at an early age, and so while going through this, I always, even as a kid, I always tried to make sense of it through the lens of faith. Why God would you make a black person with no pigment on purpose? Like, what in the world? And on top of that, having a vision impairment. And I just couldn't for the life of me understand why I wasn't being received by black people for the most part. I wasn't being necessarily accepted by white people. And it was just a difficult time. So I got kind of fed up, and I began to do some research on my own because You know, I was always told growing up, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. So I was like, well, let me get some knowledge because I need to know. So I began to Google and figure out that my condition is albinism, and that led me down the road to self-advocacy and self-understanding and self-awareness. So once I had that foundation, I began to really understand what it was that I was going through and that I wasn't alone. When I got to high school, I was able to articulate the things that I had learned and processed about my condition in a way that would help other people understand. But I was still dealing with the hurt and the mixed emotions of the ignorance that I dealt with in the past and at present at that time. And so it's a weird place to be in, because if you have knowledge but you don't have compassion with that knowledge, it becomes a tool to make sure that you don't get hurt. Like, let me educate this person so they don't hurt me, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be hurt. Well, I was in the Word, I think I was at church, and I was convicted because I realized to have truth and no love, it makes what you're trying to communicate null and void. So I really had to evaluate the intentions of my heart and understand that my condition is more than me. God created me fearfully and wonderfully made for a reason, and that reason was to shine unto Him. And so how do I do that? Is by carrying what He gave me with dignity and grace, but realizing that just because I have the condition does not mean that it has to have me. Meaning that the condition, you know, comes with a lot of challenges, but it also comes with beauty. Comes with a lot of unwanted attention, but it also comes with opportunities to showcase the glory of God. However, that does not mean I have to live in a mode of a victim where I feel like, woe was me, because I have this condition, I can't do X, Y, Z. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I had to learn that. And I also have to have compassion for the ignorant people that tried me and the ignorant people that refused to hear what I had to say. So in high school, that's when my work as an advocate for albinism really took off. I got to speak at the Young Adult Leadership Conference at a church in High Point, North Carolina during Black History Month. And there I got to meet the Western Regional Superintendent of Guilford County, and I got to get up in front of a room full of people and kind of educate them on albinism, and to see how people received it really encouraged me, because at that point I was educating from the point of view that, okay, whether or not people hear what I have to say and do something with this information, my goal is to make sure that I educate and advocate so that the generation behind me that comes after me with albinism, it's easier for them to be received, it's easier for them to be understood, it's easier for them to operate in the spaces and places that God has called them to. It was really amazing to be involved in things like that and be able to converse with people I had never met. And eventually, the more I began to advocate within the relationships at my high school, be it teachers, faculty members, peers, the more and more people were coming back to me and saying, hey Maya, like, you remember what you told me about albinism? I told my friend about that. I corrected them when they used the word albino, or I told them a little bit of what it was like from your experience, and they understood or they received it. And to me, that was kind of, it was kind of a moment like, oh Lord, wow, they heard what I said. Because you can tell somebody something and have the best intentions, but it's up to them to go forth and do whatever they're going to do with it. And my belief is that I always try to advocate one person at a time. I always try to educate one person at a time, because ultimately one-on-one is where you build those relationships. And if one person can educate that another person, and that person goes and educates another person, and that those people continue to educate, it's a ripple effect of learning to understand essentially how to value and appreciate the humanity of someone that God created. And a lot of times people think advocacy is, oh, I'm gonna fight. And it involves a lot of fighting, it involves a lot of pushing and all of that. But ultimately, when it comes to advocacy for albinism and advocacy for migraines and things like that, at the heart of it for me is the notion that I want people to understand that it's not about being politically correct. It's about noticing and taking note of the fact that, hey, that person is different, but they're an image bearer of God, whether they're saved or not. Because ultimately, as a Christian, if we want to be effective, people don't know, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. You see what I'm saying? Relationship is the pathway to true change and transformation in people's lives. Like, if it wasn't for the people in my life that God has put there, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So that is why I advocate for albinism, because I want that little girl who today was probably born in a hospital with albinism, whose parents have never heard of the condition. I want them to have an easier time of helping that child become confident in who she is, because I didn't have it. But I'm glad that things happened the way they did, because it was for the glory of God. And without it, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I know that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. So that's just kind of a quick crash course to what it was like for me growing up with albinism and stepping into the role of being an advocate for albinism. There's more to the story, obviously. There's different aspects of having albinism and being African American, but I'll save those for later videos. If you like this video, then you already know what to do. Like, comment, and subscribe. Oh, like, comment, and subscribe. And please make sure you come back for some more videos on albinism, migraines, and more through the lens of faith. God bless.